Smith Self, who said for $9.99, thank you so much, does the moron making that diatribe realize the original voice actress for the animated Astrid is Latina, in spite of the character being a Viking?
Well, that's the beauty of animation, right? Anybody can play the part, but not to them.
Well, not anymore. No, that's now changed. If you're an animated character and you're a vole, then you got to be a vole.
That's why I said not to them. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now you have to exactly be...
I want a movie that is incredibly diverse. I'm talking about every single person in the movie is of every possible race and gender combination, and I want them all played by Robert Downey Jr. and just watch the
That would be great.
Begins.
I would.
He is the dude playing another dude pretending to be another dude.
I mean, it is tiresome.
Indeed. So yeah,
to just see it one after another. I mean, what would have happened if Astrid was a young Anita Ekberg was cast for it? Like, people would go, "Wow, that's really weird." Someone that actually makes sense.
Well,
and really hot. If for all you oldsters who know who Anita Ekberg is.
One of the issues is that we have a fundamental shift in what it means to act. And so once upon a time, we all thought that we could pretend to be other people. And I remember a time, this was not long ago, where, for example, a person who is now considered quote unquote white could do an accent of someone who is quote unquote black. You would see comedians doing a Cosby impression, for example, talking about doing the voice, of course. Or you would see somebody doing an Eddie Murphy impression, and that now would be shunned. And it seems to go in a particular direction. But the issue that I have with this is that if we cannot bring in the best actors to play the roles that they can do the best, irrespective of what their appearance might be, especially when we're talking about roles where they're going to be modified, then I think that strikes at the heart of empathy. Because what you're suggesting is that unless you can represent physically this character, then you can't represent the audience who can only feel represented by the character who looks like them. And thus empathy is constrained and bound into these categories of whoever you were born to be in terms of immutable differences, rather than the dignity of the human spirit, which lies within all of us.
Well, if you're talking about acting chops, I've seen her work, and there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that she will hit this out of the park. She's a really good actor.
And well, yeah, when we were talking about it the other night, Six brought that fact up. She's like, as far as I can tell, she's a good actress. That's not the point here.
Oh, no, she's really good. I think
that's not even what people are getting at here. You have a situation where people are bringing up legitimate points, especially when we live in a world where people are so sensitive to race and people's culture and people's background. Why is it only important when it's somebody who's not white?
And people have now moved to tired. They're just tired of it.
Well, I think that's where a lot of this stuff, especially with How to Train Your Dragon, because it was such a beloved franchise. Nobody asked for a live action remake. And when you're going to do it, if you're just going to pull the same crap they did with Little Mermaid, people have just had enough. And I think to get us back to the Little Mermaid point in Disney, which was, the main topics of the day here, along with the Kathleen Kennedy's, thing. The reason I think, people are reacting the way they are to this How to Train Your Dragon business is because they've seen it already with Little Mermaid and all these other things. It's starting to hit the mainstream more. We've said it time and time again, where people are starting to call it out. I mean, there's even this like recent deal where the movie's being criticized for its prominent diversity advocate by a prominent diversity advocate for its dangerous erasure of slavery on top of it all. Did you guys see this?
Yes.
So I don't know if you want to comment and start from here.
Do you know the $1 billion mistake that Disney made with Little Mermaid? It's not who they cast, by the way. Although the reason that they cast her, that has a significant impact on it. But the $1 billion mistake that Disney made is, from the very beginning, when people said, oh, they're doing this only so they can have a black mermaid, an African-American mermaid, etc., that's the only reason they're doing it. Disney made a mistake. Disney could have come out with a statement and said, she was the best vocalist we had. She's the best, and we don't care about skin color. Instead, Disney went the absolute worst direction they could and made everything be about skin color. All of her sisters are every imaginable race. The movie is about that. They whitewashed, I guess is the criticism that they're receiving, whitewashed the Caribbean in terms of this time period, and it comes across as being creepy instead of being legitimate. It's the billion-dollar mistake. Pick one or the other. Are we either going to cease caring about skin color in regards to meritocracy, or are we going to go all in on it, and everything's just tribalism again? Disney can't have both, and that's what they want to attempt. They want it to be all about race, and at the same time, they want to erase the slavery issue at the same time they go directly headfirst into it.
Yeah, and that brings us up to this story right here, as you mentioned, where it's criticized for its dangerous erasure of slavery, which I take it to mean that here you have some activist that's going to claim that this was the wrong movie. This movie needed to be a tragedy that's all about guilting white people today for past slavery. I haven't read this article, but just seeing the headline, that is obviously the gist.
Did you want to run through it quick, Andre? Or
yeah, go for it.
It's a
as you read it,
damn creative angle.
It's the paradoxical backlash situation these companies find themselves in.
Yeah.
First, they face a backlash for the one thing. Then they give a tepid response to the one thing they're being criticized for. And then they get the backlash from the other side. So they take it from both sides now. We've seen this with the alcoholic beverage company. We've seen this from other issues. And it's the same thing with the mermaid. The mermaid gets backlash because they made it all about race. And then after Disney doesn't know what to do with that, or at least they don't know how to successfully navigate that, then they take it from the other side who says, oh, and by the way, your movie is also racist. So they're getting it from both ends of this. And these companies should realize that these kinds of issues are they're filled with landmines.
Well, and I mean, deviating from a shot for shot, faithful representation of the original animated classic was probably something you could throw in there as well. I mean, this is entirely different than what they did with Little Mermaid, or excuse me, with Lion King, which we've talked about before. So I think you have to add some of that into it as well. If they
you're saying that you didn't enjoy Scuttlebutt. Is that what you're trying to say to us?
You know what's hilarious? Did you see that they officially released that Horatius clip?
Okay. But here's what they did, Tom.
Crap. They think this is why they don't get the Agatha all along crap either. Sorry, Pro. Go ahead.
Okay. Here's what they did, and I really wish I could do an exclusive. I won't have time to do this, so I'll just say it here. They cut out the first part of that song where it does the squat and all that stupid noise.
Yeah,
and they did that for a reason. That has been trending online, and it's driving people to not go see the movie because they're like,
exactly,
this is the soundtrack. It's crap. So what they did is they faded in on that song immediately afterwards and then let it play the entire song after that to try to combat the narrative. They're doing that because of money. They would not release that full clip otherwise. That's a money issue, and they know that having that stupid song, the way it opens, trending online is hurting them badly.
Exactly.
Yep.
And going back to this article right here, I want to read because it's exactly what I thought.
Please do.
Listen to this. And this is now reading straight from the article in Deadline Hollywood. The Little Mermaid has been criticized by a prominent media diversity advocate for failing to acknowledge the horrors of slavery in the Caribbean, meaning it's one guy. Marcus Ryder, an influential British activist. Of course, here it says campaigner, but campaigner is code for basically commie SJW activist, who also chairs the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, who I can add, although it doesn't say here, is a wokier than Wokerton institution, celebrated the casting of Halle Bailey, because of course, why wouldn't they, but took issue with the film's glossy depiction of racial harmony. See there was racial harmony among the sisters. Can't have that. After watching the Disney remake with his 6-year-old son, who must also be educated and raised to be a proper activist, Ryder felt compelled to write a blog about the movie, and that is what this whole article is based upon, because of course Deadline Hollywood wants to give this kind of nonsense a platform, which he said missed an opportunity to gently educate children. So here you then have an activist father, who's probably a they them, and who took his son to see the Little Mermaids, and he was upset that all these sisters that they weren't fighting. They were different races, so they should be fighting, and they weren't. And it wasn't enough attacks on white people, and it wasn't enough education and indoctrination in slavery. And so he's unhappy. And Disney needs to do better. So next time, more division between people of different skin colors and more education in slavery, just to really bring the horrors of the past into the present so we can absolutely traumatize everyone. That's the gist of this article.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about this guy real quick. This is, of course, Marcus Ryder. He's a figure within the United Kingdom. He is part of a diversity push, and he's really the leading guy in the United Kingdom for pushing for diversity in the media. But he's written a book, and so if anybody wants to go look up and see what his opinions are, he has a book called Access All Areas, The Diversity Manifesto for TV and Beyond. And by the way, anyone who puts manifesto, that kind of puts you in the villainous territory. I don't know why people use the word manifesto. It's never a good idea. It
also means that he is funded by various think tanks.
That's exactly right. Now, one of the things he says in his book, he draws on decades of experience, supposedly, to reveal why recent efforts to diversify media have thus far been ineffective. That is the synopsis of what he's attempting to do with his book. He wants you to think that despite all of the decades of us trying to emulate the way society looks, we have been totally ineffective, and he wants to bring forth his vision for how media should look. So view his commentary through that lens of what his goal is, what his operandus might be.
Indeed. One has to keep this in mind. Again, this is someone that wants to subvert and ultimately destroy society. That's the ultimate goal here.
And it also should be said that he's coming out of the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom stands as the premier nation in the world that fought against slavery. Of course, Wilberforce was a huge part of that, and it took hundreds of years, but the United Kingdom largely eradicated slavery as we have known it for thousands and thousands of years.
They did,
and so
but this
we never talk about that.
Yeah, no, this is erased from history. That doesn't fit the narrative. So you can find it if you look for it, but this isn't taught in British schools, nor is it taught anywhere else. In schools, even in Britain, you were taught about the horrors of slavery, and then presumably just disappeared at some point between now and then, relatively recently, but we're still suffering the after effects of it, and we all need to do better. Exactly the fight that the British in particular did to end it, this is not emphasized anywhere.
And Andre, the really horrible thing is that after the United Kingdom ended slavery, essentially, again, Wilberforce being the driving factor behind that, but after that, and after the erasure of that from our history books, we're not allowed to know that anymore. Most kids have no idea whatsoever. Wilberforce should be one of the main names we know in history, of course. But then corporations moved slavery into China. And so now most of our goods and services come out of a country that employs forced labor and all kinds of horrible things. But we don't believe that slavery exists in the world. We celebrate its end under a different force. We don't give it the name that it deserves. But in reality, slavery continues. It's just...
Oh, it totally exists. It exists where it first started.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Corporations, they have quite the penalty upon their heads in the future, I think, for what they have done in terms of shifting the slavery of 100 and 200 years ago to a far-off land that's hidden behind a digital curtain where we cannot see.
This clip was taken from Midnight's Edge in the Morning, which streams live every Monday, Wednesday and Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time on the Midnight's Edge main channel. There you can send in your live questions and comments before clips and full stream replays are uploaded to Midnight's Edge live archives. We are also on Twitter, Rumble, Odyssey and Facebook, so smash that like, help share, subscribe and join us.